Okay, before beginning this tutorial, what I need you to do is to go into your Multimedia folder and go into your class resources, tutorial, Photoshop, and pictures for tutorial. I need you to make a copy of this cross-country picture. Right click and say copy. And then I need you to put it in your own personal folder in the Project 2 tutorials folder. And then you need to right click and say paste. Once it is pasted into that file, I need you to rename it last name _ layers. And then go ahead and open. Once you have made a copy, go ahead and open that copy of your file in Photoshop. Remember that it should be called last name _ layers. If you get this button that says some fonts are missing, it's just hit OK. It means that the fonts I used are not available on your computer. What we are going to do in this tutorial is focus on the Layers tab. If you have anything above this Layers tab, most likely you have this Properties bar. What you can do is grab it, drag it to the smaller sub-tabs right there. That way you have your layers right at the top. So let's start by talking about why we use layers. What are they for? How do they help our picture? How do they hurt our picture? And how do we organize them? Just like we talked about file organization with InDesign, layer organization is crucial in Photoshop to having a good Photoshop file when you are finished. When you are using layers, they are exactly what they sound like. It is several things put on top of a base picture or put on top of, say, a text, but essentially what you see in this layer tab, the order that they are in is the order that they appear over here on your picture. So whatever is at the top is what is on the top layer. So if we turn these on with your eyeball, and this eyeball affects whether you see them or not. So go ahead and turn all the eyeballs on. What you will notice is that this layer is on top of the pictures. Layer order can be changed by simply moving a layer up or down. So I just moved that layer all the way up to the top. Oops. Move that layer. Maybe it won't let me move it down. Okay. Move that layer to the top. So now this layer 1, this logo, which you see right here, is now at the top. If I wanted to move my picture to the top, I simply drag it up. Now I don't see any of these layers below it because this layer is at 100% opacity, 100% fill. So layer management just simply means what order do the layers come in on this group, okay? And knowing how to move them around is crucial to being able to change or affect the way you view it. So if you're unsure how to do that, I would suggest you play around and move some of those layers into different orders. This little arrow right here allows you to condense different groups. Okay, so I can condense this text layer so I have it only in my group. When you would like to make a new group, you come down here and you hit new group, and then in this group you can add any layers that you choose. So if I want to have all my pictures in one group, and then I could move them down together behind the other layers. Same with making a new layer. If we add a new layer, by doing that we could add in, say, a building behind them, or we could add in an explosion, or whatever we would like to kind of add to the look. So first thing you need to understand about layers is just what you see is the order that the image appears. So this is the top layer, this is the bottom layer. You can edit those by moving things around. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control-Alt-Z so I can get back to where we were at when we started. Okay, if you moved layers around, I suggest you just continue hitting Control-Alt-Z till you're back to where we started. We talked about the eyeball, which helps turn the layers on or off. There's also a lock layer. This allows you to make sure that no changes are made. And in fact, anytime you try to do something, you will get this pop-up tool which says, sorry, can't do that, it is locked. Okay? To unlock, you simply hit the lock tab again. Some really important things that you can do under this layer tab. The first important thing that you can do is what's called layer adjustments. And you'll see right here under the cinematic folder we have, there are several layer adjustments. I know they are layer adjustments because they have the half black, half white circle. And what I would like to do is show you how to apply a layer adjustment. We talked a little bit about these with the layer tab. We also talked about how you can go to image adjustments. The reason layer adjustments are more successful than image adjustments is that if I wanted to take one of these layer adjustments off, I can simply come over here and take off the eye. If I were to do them under image adjustments, they are permanent changes. They cannot go back and undo those changes. Okay, so first thing I would like for you to do is let's turn off our layer adjustments that we have already, and let's try to make our own layer adjustments. We'll go ahead and turn off the text as well. And I want you to click on layer 0, and you're going to come down here to the half black, half white circle, and I would like for you to just simply pick brightness or contrast or hue and saturation. Within that, you can see that you can play around with the way the picture looks. Okay? What I can do now is I can decide whether I like that layer. Obviously, it's pretty terrible. So if I don't like it, what I can do is simply drag it into the trash can, or I can click on it and hit delete on my keyboard. The difference being, if I were to come to layer 0, gone to image, adjustments, and change the hue and saturation, it's a permanent change. There's no layer to disable. And if I continued making changes to this and then decided later on I didn't like it, I have no way of going back and altering that. That is where the advantage of using layer adjustments comes in handy. I can come back to my cinematic group where I have these several different layer adjustments, and I can turn those back on. There I can see the adjustments that were already made. I can also come to them and adjust them further if I would like by double clicking on them. Let's say this is the adjustments that have been made thus far. If I want to change it even more, then I can play around with those. Okay. So you can adjust a layer that's already been added. You can add new adjustments. You can turn adjustments off if you don't like them. Okay. And you can play around with them. The thing you need to know about layer adjustments is they will affect every layer that is below them. So right now, this cinematic layer is currently only over layer 0. If I turn these two back on and I move group 1 below my cinematic layer, you'll notice that it changes this text as well. It changes the look of those. So any layer adjustments you add will affect all the layers below it. If you look again, when I drag group 1 below the cinematic, it changes this red color to be much more muted and faded. If I drag it back up, this layer adjustment is no longer affecting the things above it. It is only affecting the things below it. So that is the first thing you need to know in layer adjustments. The next thing you need to know is how do you add effects. If you come in here and look at these subgroup, so hit the group number 1 tab, you'll see that a lot of these texts have effects on them. When you have a text box and you want to add a drop shadow or an inner shadow, what you could currently do in InDesign by right-clicking and saying effects, you can do also by clicking a layer. So click layer 1, come to the blank space, and double-click, and it will give you a layer styles option. And all of those same bevel, shadow, stroke, inner shadow, all of those things, same options are available in Photoshop. It's just simply achieved by double-clicking and getting your effects box, or you can come down to the FX tab and scroll through that way to find a effect. The other thing you should know about layers is that you can change their opacity. Let's say you don't want it to show up as much, or you want it to show up a lot more. You can go in and change their opacity. I can change the opacity of this entire group by turning it down, and as you'll see, it goes away quite a bit. I can come into the sub-tabs and change just the opacity of one layer. Notice the 2013 gets quite a bit darker or lighter. Okay, so make sure you understand how to use opacity. You can also change the layer type. Normal is the default type. There's a lot of different ways to use this tab. There's ways to use it successfully and unsuccessfully. You just have to play around with them most tutorials will tell you what to change these to if they want you to use that. But you can see that it will change. Just notice how it changes depending upon the type of layer that I make it. So for now I would stick with normal unless some tutorial specifically asks you to change that. The last thing you need to know about layers is simply how to put things into a group. If you add a group, all you have to do is click the layers you want to put in it and drag them in. That is now in layer 2. If you want to get things out of a group, you simply grab them and drag them out of the group. So if something has gotten into a group, so like this layer 2 and layer 2 copy, if I want to get them out of the group, I open the sub tab and I drag them out. And again, as a refresher, when you want to move layers around, you simply move them up and down. There are lots of things you can do in layers, but those are the basic things you need to know. Those are the things that different tutorials are going to ask you to do. In our next tutorial, we're going to cover layer masks and quick masks and ways that that can be helpful when using your selection tool. So if you have any other questions about layers that come up, please revisit this tutorial, or if there's something that I didn't cover, then please ask me and we will figure out where those things are located.